Welcome to the Culture of You, meaningful dialogue with me and my favorite people. All right, y'all, welcome to the Culture of You. And today I have a wonderful guest on here. You're welcome in advance, Erica Butler M. And I have to say it because she has the same degree as I do, as the founder and sex education for Happ E SexTalk, a small education consulting company that believes medically accurate, affirming culturally competent, comprehensive sex education is a basic human right. I love that statement.
That is a fucking description.
Woo. Okay. It's on your LinkedIn. All right. A creator of Happermations. Happy 1 year anniversary for that.
Thank you.
The curator of Sexy Zone, which we have one coming up June 2nd. And then a mother. It is the month of mothers. So that is one of the main reasons why she's on here right now. Event curator. It's lit. Friend, fellow dissociator. We have Erica Butler on here today. What's up, friend?
That's like hands down, like maybe my favorite. Come on, Karen.
Give me a show.
You know,
give me a show.
That's it. I like it. That was very thorough. I like it.
Did I miss anything?
Biracial, only child. That's it. That's
those are important. Those are important factors.
They are. They are very important. But other than that, I don't think you missed the thing. Oh, partner. I'm partner again. Yeah, no, David.
Yes, you have an amazing husband.
He's a person that's in my life every day that I love a lot.
He's so dope. He's another episode, another day.
Oh my God. We're thinking about doing the first episode of season 2 of my podcast together. And I was like, I don't think the world's ready.
That would be so much fun.
That's going to be a lot. Anyway, yes, I'm so thankful to be here. Thank you for hitting me up.
Mm-hmm. And so why'd you say yes?
Share space. Well, because it's you. And anytime we talk, it's amazing. Just in general about regular stuff, intellectually. I think the first time that we spent a long time together was when we were on that fireside chat for Kamisha, right? My sorority sister with, what was that? With Elsie?
Yep.
And in that moment, I was like, okay, well, we was meant to be on every panel together and pretty much be friends for life. So I just feel like whenever you say, hey, can you do this? I'm like, yeah, sure.
That panel was awesome.
Well, you know, it's great to have people in your life that you can just show up and know you're going to be taken care of, that you're safe, that you can say what you want, and that, you know, you're not coming from a space of whatever. We all here to love and learn, and we'll call each other shit out if we get hurt in the meantime. So I feel like that's a great way to.
I love that as like the agreements.
Yeah.
That's the agreements.
Like, don't be a dick. That's pretty much it.
That's it. All right. So speaking of your vibe, people are probably already getting a feel for it. So explain your vibe. Like, you can go as a friend, as an educator, as a mother, as a wife. Like, talk about all of these ways that you vibe and show up in the world. And if there's any differences, let us know those too.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I think about that often because when I got out of grad school, like some people, I would assume I had a really unhealthy, drive to find whatever balance was, right? And then I very, you know, after struggling for 2 years of like feeling like I was failing and not finding balance, I was like, oh wait, this is all bullshit. Balance isn't an actual thing. There's ebbs and flows. Sometimes I'm really good at these roles in my life, and other times these ones are not getting as much attention. And then it's vice versa. Sometimes I'm like on it as a wife, and then I'm really not great as an educator, or like, you know what I mean? And I think that though that's kind of grown on me, I wasn't like super excited about that reality when I found out about it. I think that it's given me a sense of freedom to just be who I am everywhere I go. And I don't think I knew how much I needed that until it just kind of started happening, because I'm a lot. I'm a Pisces. I'm an only child. I'm loud as shit. I'm an extrovert, but also kind of secretly an introvert now because of COVID. So like, I am my happiest when I'm around people, when I am talking about sex, when I'm with my beautiful children, when I'm with my family and my friends. I love fucking hard, unapologetically and out loud. And like, it's reciprocated or not, but it's coming either way. And it's consensual, but I'll come in hot everywhere I go. Usually dancing, shaking an ass with some body part hanging off my ears. You know, like, it's just, this is what we're doing. And my kids greatly follow. They just fall into suit. And I think I'm raising a great sense of, just show up, kids. Everybody will deal with that.
I love that because I mean, you attract the people that you want to be around
Yeah.
just by showing up authentically.
Yeah. And I think, it's really funny how easy that is when it's like truly authentic and you're not like forcing it to be authentic. Like
Mm-hmm.
I really just I've got thyroid shit. I'm postpartum. I'm sweaty. My body's awkward. And you just gonna get all of that. I forewarn, I'm sweaty. You can come in for a hug if you want, but I can't do nothing about what you leave with when you hug me. It's here. This is what we're doing now. And I just think that I still deal with body shit every day. I mean, I live in America, right? I don't think I'm
Mm-hmm.
ever going to unlearn that completely, no matter how hard I try, no matter how much work I do. I've been doing this work for 20 years. And it's still something that I struggle with. I think I always will. But I think that I have learned after everything my body has done for me, I'm giving it so much more grace now. And I'm appreciating it. And I'm, for the most part, listening to it when it tells me it needs to rest and like, taking care of myself when I want, like, even if I don't want to stop, but my body is like, if you don't sit down and cuddle up next to your kids and watch this movie for an hour and a half and just let your brain rest,
Mm-hmm.
and then you just feel so like we talked about yesterday, how rest and pleasure are so connected. And I
Yes.
feel so much better when I just sit for a moment. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not great at sitting for a long sense of time.
Me neither.
So I do everything in intervals. I sleep in intervals. I hang out in intervals. Like I work in intervals. I don't really do anything in like 7-hour chunks. I don't know what the fuck that life is like. I've never known that.
What's your longest training you've done?
Oh, my trainings haven't been super long because nobody wants to have me in a room talking about sex for an
They're like,
unending
you get 2
length of
hours
time.
max.
I'm fucking everybody up if you give me a long amount of no. I gotta have an outline or something. You can't give me free space. I will fuck everybody's shit up. But I think the longest one is probably like, I don't know, man, like 3 or 4 hours, but it was, how I facilitate. It's really a conversation.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't a lot of me talking. It's more so like just facilitating spaces where people are learning. And I was just kind of, checking in, we coming back, we moving around. I try to keep it as entertaining as possible because people are already hella awkward and uncomfortable. So if I'm also like cagey and not comfortable and not myself, then I'm not really setting a stage for them to feel safe with me.
Yeah.
So, that's why, again, I think that, I always say David created the name Happy SexTalk because I don't have the brain to be that creative. He also thought of Happermations, all the branding stuff that's connected to me in any way, shape, or form. That's the creative brain
He's a visionary.
David, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it started because when we were thinking about, it started off as a Tumblr blog. So it was really just kind of like, how am I going to get this on a Tumblr blog to where people understand that this is the energy that I'm coming with?
Yeah.
And he was like, well, I've known you at that point for, I don't know, a decade at least. And so he was like, the happiest I've ever seen you is when you're teaching, when you're facilitating, when you're talking about sex, and when you're helping people make connections that they may have already known, but they just didn't have the language or they didn't have the, the way to like connect things. You know how that goes. And so he was like, why don't you just use that? He was like, and then you can kind of make it like an acronym. And so then I was like, oh, so healthy, arousing, positive, pleasurable, educated. Those are like kind of the 5 main principles, no matter what I'm talking about. Those are my space. That's my safe space. Those 5.
Like a way of life. It's like a way of life for you.
Yeah. I mean, it has been. And I think without knowing it, it had been for so long before that moment. Because as soon as he was like making an acronym, my brain don't move quick for nothing. It's scrambled 24/7. Those 5 words came out so quick. And I was like, well, shit, I guess that was meant to be. And I think originally I ended up changing it to arousing. Like, there were times where it's like kind of gone in and out of different things. But those 5 principles exist in everything I do, no matter what topic I'm talking about.
Say it one more time. Happy.
So healthy. I'm sorry. Healthy, arousing, positive, pleasurable. And I have educated, but everybody's version of what education means is their own.
You're right.
I'm not giving nobody a definition of that. But for me, I'm a nerd. I like school. I got degrees. It's where I landed. I can't say I'm excited about the loans I got from it, but I did it.
Right, still paying them. I'm taking them to the grave, so it's
yeah,
fine.
amen. No, I'm gonna get this forgiveness is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna figure that out somehow.
So at what point were you like, pre undergrad, were you like this is where I want to go. And this is, you've been doing it for 20 years. So around that graduate time, you're like, this is the route I want to go. How did you get to that decision?
I say 20 years because I don't like to count high school years, but I was doing this shit in high school.
Okay.
Like, honestly, I think it probably found me around like early 2000s.
Okay.
I was the girl that had a bigger ass than the white girls I went to school with. It ain't big, but it was big in comparison.
You're welcome.
I also had really big titties in comparison to everybody else. I very publicly started my period in 5th grade. Everybody knew that I was far more developed than most of the people. Mm-hmm. I played all the sports. I was literally friends with every fucking person. It didn't matter what like little clique you were in. Mm-hmm. I was friends with everybody. I was kind of the only person, truthfully, and I don't say that arrogantly. I'm saying I could literally move through all the spaces with all different groups of kids and be fine wherever I went. And I think that sometimes I forget the privilege that comes from that, because that shit ain't right. That's natural for a lot of people in high school. And it wasn't because I knew who I was and I was trying to be different versions of myself every fucking day. I don't think I appreciated or accepted the beautiful fucking curls in my hair until I was in college. All I wanted to do, white beauty standards, man. It was like, just, you grow up in Pataskala and all you see are white girls that are like literally the size of your thigh. That's their whole body. The whole body was just my thigh. And I was like, well, this is inappropriate. I already stood out. I had melanin. They were super pale. I had big titties. They had little mosquito bites. There were all these different versions of me always sticking out. I was like, well, I might as well just meet people while I'm always out in front of people, because I'm always sticking out in the groups that I was in. And so then next thing I know, I'm finding the CDC website because my mom worked at a law firm. And so we got, yes, I am 37. So there was not a part in my life where I had fucking internet. She brought home a computer and we had dial up because she got it from a membership at work, and she illegally brought that shit home and was like, we gonna have internet at the house. And I was like, this sounds great. I don't know what the internet is, but I'm about to figure it out, And so I quickly found the CDC to answer questions about things that were going on with my friends' bodies.
Oh, wow.
Kind of happenstance. I mean, it was a lot of language I didn't fully understand. CDC wasn't great with like layman's terms back then, but I could kind of get the gist of it. And it just like people were calling me for advice in their relationships. Please keep in mind that nobody was touching me with a 10-foot pole. I had no boyfriends. I had no partners, no love interests at all. It was all one-sided crushes for me. The one person I did commit to was a beautiful Black man who I'm still great friends with to this day, but he cheated on my ass so many times. I was like, I don't know why we are still here, but I love you. So in high school, it was just like this toxic kind of like, okay, well, it's Erica and Justin, and this is what it is. And we never questioned it. And I was like, I mean, this is who you are. It's fine. Like, I never even thought to like stand up for myself or say that he knew it hurt me, knew it made me upset. We just moved on, so it was never really a scenario where I was worried about my own relationships, but I was trying to make sure, this is the Pisces in me, the empath.
Yeah.
I'm trying to make sure all my people are good, because if they good, then I'm good. Right. And also, I think at that point in my life, I was using it as a distraction from having to think about whatever was going on with me at the time. I don't think it was intentional, but it was definitely doing the job of distracting me.
Yeah.
So then when I left and went to college, and I found out that you could like be a peer educator who like just went in and out of dorms and did presentations about health stuff, and everybody was fucking awkward talking about sex. I was like, I'll do those.
There's so much sex happening in college, and it's like, let's talk about it.
And for a while, I couldn't talk about it unless it was in connection to alcohol. And I sat down and I was like, I want you to know that this is not okay. Some people are actually fucking sober. And we got to talk about that. Like, I'm fine with having the conversations about safety. Of course. College kids drink. That's what they do. But they're not all beer goggle drunk. And so like, we can definitely have a range here. It doesn't have to be like, oh my God, you're falling over and still trying to make decisions. Oh, no. I was like, this ain't going to work long term. So you got to come up with different versions of this workshop. And they were like, well, why don't you? I was like, challenge.
Right. So thinking about like what you just said, I was hearing, the notion of like substances. So I definitely want to talk about how do you feel like substances impact the conversation and the behaviors around sex. And then I want to talk about consent. So if you want to put them together, go for that. But talk about how you face that in those spaces, because that's a real big deal.
Yeah, I mean, that's a big deal in any space. There are grown-ass people who are self-medicating to get through whatever sexual experience is happening in their homes every day.
Yeah.
Right. So it is definitely, there is some association with all of it: consent, substances, sex. A lot of it can come from traumatic experiences or people learning to cope with traumatic experiences through substance use or whatever the case may be. Or they just happen to be around a lot of people that was doing drugs and they all kind of started at the same time, sex, drugs, and whatever. And then, now they're just there. They don't know a part of their life where drugs and sex happen separately. And so then it's like, well, why would I ever experience this without the euphoric feeling of whatever drug or alcohol, that I'm on? True. So I think it's a lot of the fact that like America just is not healthy in general, and our coping mechanisms for everyday shit. I'm not talking about sex. I'm just saying for existing, like waking up and being okay.
Yeah.
Those coping mechanisms are shit. Yeah. And they are not helping our bodies at all. In fact, we are, more than likely harming them a little bit each day, right? We're just going to end up with like really hot centers, like the, like the earth.
Lava.
Lava, blah, and I think that, there are some people who for a very long time, like try really fucking hard to figure it out. And that shit is hard, right? Like having to kind of really do the deep work to figure out why your go-to is that coping mechanism, because oftentimes you're not even you don't even make the connection that it's happening in connection. It's just like, okay, well, my life is this. And so I think that they make an effort. We all try to do therapy at some point. We all try to work through the hard shit. And then the hard shit fucks us up because we hit something that we didn't know we was going to hit.
Yeah, and you're just like,
because
stuck.
Our brain is our bodyguard and it keeps that shit from us as much as hard as it can and for as long as it can. But our bodies is like, nah, you won't feel this hit. You have to feel this hit or else we'll never get through it. Right. And so there's kind of like there's this disconnect between the somatic experience of the body and like your brain naturally wanting to prevent you from feeling anything painful. Right. It's like that's what the brain does. It's like, oh no, we can forget that. I got 17 crevices back here you don't even know exist because y'all are stupid and the brain is amazing. Like, you know what I mean? There's so much stuff we don't know about the brain, and it does a very good job of keeping us safe so that we're not walking around with our trauma 24/7. But then our bodies are like, yeah, so all this stuff you've been doing to avoid the trauma that's up here, now I'm kind of over it. And so then it starts shutting down. So then that's impacting libido, sex, lubrication, all these sorts of things. Not to mention, nobody's ever taught how to communicate in an effective way, let alone in a non-aggressive or non-hurtful. A lot of times we're just saying things to hurt somebody so much that they stop talking because we don't actually want to talk. We want to fight and then be mad because makeup sex is better, right? So there's that whole element too. It's like we don't know how to exist in a space where we honor our bodies, we honor the bodies of the people in our lives, and we work through that hard shit together. Or maybe we work through it separately and then we work through the other part of it together. However it works for you is beautiful, but that shit is hard for a reason. Yeah. Right. And so for me, all of this clarity came 6 years ago when Mr. Emery Michael came out of my body. And I was like, God damn, I am not healed in a lot of ways. Wow. In a lot of ways. And I was like, this one's smart. Like Emery and I promise you, Karen, stared at each other for 45 minutes, barely blinking after he was born. And I was like, oh, you're downloading me. Like, this is what's happening. What? Like, you've been in here. You've heard the resounding sound that is my loud ass voice all the time. I had so much water. He was basically doing somersaults 24/7. Just that's why he can't be still to this day. I shit you not. He's like turning around in circles, flipping. That's how he goes to sleep.
Oh my gosh.
He like turns around in a circle, flips himself over.
Oh my
I'm
goodness.
convinced that's what he did in my uterus the entire time I was pregnant. But I had so much water, I never felt him move. But he was in here living the dream. So he was like, all right, bet. So this is what still is. That's cool. I don't like it, but you're cool. So we're going to do this together. And then I'm never going to be still again. Okay. And in that 45 minutes, I was like, yo, like, you could just kind of tell in his eyes, like he was really trying to make things connect. And he was a mere hours old. And I was like, shit, he's gonna see right through me. I can't fake it with this one. He's got me right now. I couldn't move my legs. They gave me so much epidural. I couldn't move for 12 hours. All I could do was let this boy just stare at me.
Oh my goodness.
My ass. And he wasn't even 12 hours old.
Oh my goodness.
Like, shit, I got to get a therapist. I got to figure this out. I can't be. He's going to read me at like 2.
He has read you.
Yeah, man. It was just something like innately with this kid. I was like, oh man.
Oh my gosh.
Okay. And so I am also unapologetically a fuck. Like I mess up every day, multiple times a day. I think there's nothing but beauty in that, because if I was showing my children some Stepford version
right.
of me, whatever that looks like, of like this cool, calm, and collected, somebody who was never too high or never too low, didn't get mad, always wore dresses, had my hair, you know, like was always well put together. You know what I mean? Like wasn't just walking around with thighs out in a t-shirt because I fucking hate pants all the time. You know, like I am a beautiful mess. And I think that is a great thing to show my kids, because it is effectively giving them the feeling like, oh man, it's okay if I have these feelings too. Right? Because when we get to the Happermations, it's like, all of your feelings are valid, all of them. What matters is that you don't stay in that pocket for too long, because staying in that pocket messes up your insides. You know, I can't really talk about fucking neurotransmitters and like cortisol with my 6-year-old, right?
Right.
So it's like, you know, how your tummy feels weird and you be telling me that you got to go to the bathroom, maybe your stomach hurts or something. I was like, that's because you was too hype or you was too sad and your body's trying to regulate. And so that's why I try to, you know, figure out, I got a whole book, like you want to do the volcano, you want to be the train. We got all these different tools of how to get this energy out so that you don't stay to one way or the other, you know, because I think it's going to be important when I'm not around that he's confident enough to get himself out of those spaces safely so that he can still be aware of his surroundings. Right. My biggest fear is that he's just going to be and he's such an emotional kid. It's Scorpio, born with a heart, you know, birthmark. He feels all the feels and he feels them really fucking strongly. And I love that about him, but I always get nervous when I'm not around that he's going to be in that moment and then somebody's going to take advantage of him in some way, shape, or form.
Sure.
And he's not going to be present enough to tell somebody, no, I don't like that, or I don't want to play this game, or I don't want to, you know, and all of these, we keep happy surprises and not secrets. And we ask for people's consent, you know, all these sorts of things will go out the wayside because he's just trying to cope. And so we work on that a lot, but he's 6. So like works half the time, maybe on a good day. And then Dia just kind of like, why is Emery crying? My 3-year-old is like, what? I'm like, stop judging from the corner. We are trying to do something here. But, you know, so I yell every day at him for something, but I come back and apologize. And I say, even adults don't know how to manage their emotions sometimes. It's all a crapshoot, man. We don't know what we're doing. At the end of the day, the goal is to not be an asshole. And so I'm going to apologize as many times as I can if I feel like I've made you feel that way. And I think too, when it comes to the somatic experiences and emotions, we put our well-being in other people's hands far too often and without any question. Like, I don't want my kids to feel like they are responsible for how I respond to them or how my emotions are processing things. You know, Emery, like sometimes he just wants to be funny. So he's like, Mommy, I really want to make you laugh. And I'm like, okay, but like, I can also make myself laugh. You don't have to feel like you got to make me laugh all the time. There's a time and a place for that. Sure. If you want to be a comedian, I am here. You like it. I love it, baby. You know, I'm taking him right to you. You can teach him all things because I don't know shit about that.
We'll talk timing. That's all.
I mean, I know I'm funny. I make myself laugh every day. I need no one else's validation. But my son is like, no, I want everybody to laugh. Was it funny? You know, so we're just trying to work through making sure, because I went through a lot of my life, as I said in the beginning, making sure everybody else was good and neglecting myself. And I'm still like dealing with the ramifications of that being my normal at 37. And that shit probably stopped my freshman or sophomore year of college. You know, I wish it would have stopped sooner.
They call it what is it called? It's a syndrome. It's human giver syndrome.
Yeah. Yep. Oh yeah. That's
and so many of us, especially assigned female at birth, women presenting, like we have this human giver syndrome where we just are so concerned about everybody else being okay. And then we just get kind of lost in it and we don't really care for ourselves.
Next thing you know, we falling on the ground. I'm having panic attacks, asthma attacks. I don't know why I'm not, like, what is happening? Oh,
getting committed, you know?
Because when I tell you, man, your body will lay your ass out. You can run for as long as you want, but your body gonna come and get what it needs.
It will.
It's fucking tears, and it needs love, and it needs sleep, and it needs all the things, whatever you need in your life, even if that means a hotel room by yourself and nobody touching you, or if it means being in a big hug with everybody you love, whatever you need, your body will tell you. At one point, it'll ground your ass. Mine has done it multiple times, you know, because we out there trying to think we can do it all. I fell kind of back into it when I had Dia, and David had just started working in Cincinnati. So he was commuting 3 days a week. I had a newborn and a 2.5-year-old. And I was like, nah, I got this. Second C-section, healing from the second C-section, which, by the way, placenta previa is a bitch. I had that the whole second pregnancy. It's like, can't have an orgasm for over 8 months when I was pregnant with Dia. Because
my God.
Because my placenta could have ruptured and I could have died. So like my association with pleasure for over 9 months was death. So I'm still fucked up from that, because it was like I went to the doctor one day, literally had an orgasm that morning, went to the OB and she was like, yeah, so your daughter's kicked your placenta over your cervix. And I was like, well, you don't know she's my daughter, you know she has a vulva, so we'll start there. Also, what the fuck is happening? And so it was like the whole pregnancy, it was just always kind of awkwardly placed. And she was a big baby, she was 9 pounds 9 ounces. She was tight in there, just pushing on all the placenta's got all the juice, all the good shit. And she was like, yeah, no, that's gonna be my soccer ball. Which is why Dia is the way that she is. Doesn't it all, like, now that you know
it all tracks,
and you know my kids, it's like, oh, bet.
It all tracks.
It all tracks. Emery doesn't stop moving. Dia's always like, yep, I know I'm fucking you up internally, because that's all she did my entire pregnancy.
And she's judging you too, like looking at you.
And she's judging you, right? I love her. So, you know, it's been, for me, even just like having to reconnect with my own sense of pleasure and what that looks like for me. That shit's already hard when you have 2 other humans that have come out of your body, and the version of your body that you had before that you have afterwards, it ain't the same. And I had C-sections both times, not because I couldn't deliver vaginally, but because Emery tried to come out ass first after 36 hours of labor.
Come on, Emery.
Because it was during a Trump pregnancy. He was already 2 weeks late. He was like, I'm staying the fuck in here because y'all are burning the shit to the ground, and I don't want to be out there. It's safer in here.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh no, we're inducing.
He's like, I got room. I can do somersault. I got
room, I'm somersault.
Why would I leave?
This is the sweet spot. And then, you know, the stuff with Dia, like, I don't think I actually still understand how much of my body, like, not feeling like it's in the right spot. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yes.
You know, I mean, pregnancy moves fucking organs all over the place anyway, and then it's a crapshoot how they land at the end, regardless of how, you know, the extraction of said baby comes from your body.
Right.
And on top of it, having placenta previa was a lot on my body, and I had postpartum anxiety and depression, like, all of that just compounded on orgasm equals death for a sex educator was a lot, you know? So even somebody who does this work all the time, please understand, we are fucking in these trenches too. Like, I can talk about this shit now because I'm kind of halfway through it with therapy, and I have an extremely supportive partner who talks with me honestly about this shit and understands that that my lack of interest is not about him. It's that there's a lot happening here. And I think, you know, as time goes by, I realize like how much more is still connected to that. And I've never been so disconnected from like my libido and my sense of pleasure, and like even wanting to have someone I'm so touched out by kids all the time that the last thing I want is for somebody else to be like, so do you want to cuddle? No. Because I literally had this all fucking day already, so like just trying to process all of that while most people don't have great communication skills. Then we land into this world of like, okay, well, I'm just going to drink a few glasses or bottles of wine, or I'm going to go ahead and drink this beer. I'm going to go ahead and, hit these shots. I'm going to go to the bar. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this drug. I'm going to do this drug, because we just trying to cope, man. There's so much shit that happens on a regular basis to people that we don't understand. And the society we are in doesn't necessarily like praise people who are trying to process through that.
No, and definitely not soberly.
Of themselves, definitely not soberly. Definitely not soberly. But if they're doing it drunkenly all over the place, then we also judge them for that too. So like what can they be?
Right.
Who can they be trying to get where you want them to be? Because again, your expectations don't matter because you're not the one experiencing it.
Right.
Be connected, but all of your stress and you're trying to tell me how to process is not helping. So then it just compounds even more, right? And so then it's like this vicious cycle. So there may be moments where, it's a very long answer to your question, but there may be moments where the substance abuse can happen in a cipher and it's just there, but oftentimes it's all kind of connected, whether the people engaging in all those behaviors are aware of it or not. What
is your vision for folks and community? And I mean, we could speak to this, like, especially in the Black community. I know there's such a, I mean, stigma is probably a played out word, but there's a stigma on the word stigma, right? But like,
right.
How what's your vision for community around undoing and unlearning a lot of those socialized hesitancy, resistance to sexuality and fluidity, and like the understanding and the processing of that social emotional piece, and just being like okay and surviving? What's your vision for the community around accepting and talking about this stuff?
I think that as a person of color, waking up every morning is fucking hard enough. Okay. I mean, I just want us in our own spaces around our own people to be able to feel safe and supported and loved enough to be who we are. It's really that simple. But it's also not, because all of us have been getting these messages from society for fucking decades, because we are at now a point of decades of people, generations upon generations of people that never got the language, never got the tools. And so we are compounded with 40 years of fucking trauma. And we all know that manifests in its way. It passes genetically shit too. So we're not only carrying our own trauma, we carry in generations behind us too. Moms, grandma, auntie, like, and then not to mention y'all still inviting the one family member that can't be left alone with kids to the fucking barbecue every other month. I don't understand. And then telling the kids, don't go near Uncle so-and-so. Why don't we just stop telling the adult, like, why is the adult coming back? Why don't we tell them to leave and then let kids be fucking kids? Because
we said when the safety, infrastructure, and support is there, then there's more room to play and do fun things.
Exactly. I mean, literally, like, it's just, these children and these Black and brown babies, Emory is in kindergarten and he is told every minute of every day how to be. Every minute of every day. Even if they're not talking directly to him, he's hearing them tell everybody else in the room. Right. And so like, it's not necessarily just him. There's 24 kids in that room, which is insane to think about. I can't even survive 2 when they're at school all day. And I only have 3 hours in between school and bedtime. It's like fucking, I don't know I didn't watch WWE, but whatever the most extreme version of like being thrown off the fucking, it's that, whatever that word is, that's what it is.
I taught high school and middle school, like 7th, 8th, 9th graders, 10th graders. And they weren't really the issue. Like once we got to what it was, they were fine.
Right.
But it was just, for me, I ran up against so much in the administration space. I was, because I let them talk and tell me what was really going on. A lot of the parents were like, wait, why are they? Well, yeah, I gave them space. And then the parents would be like, my kid only talks to you. And like their parents are going through a divorce. And I'm like, at the time I was like, I'm 26. Like, I don't want to be your therapist,
Absolutely.
parent.
Absolutely.
But like I got out because it was just so much up against the system and so much against what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
For me, it wasn't about creating space. It was about creating space. And for them, it was about, getting them to act one way.
Exactly. As if acting one way works for every kid. Are you kidding?
Come on.
Half of the children are acting up because you're not creating a space where they feel safe to express to you that they don't understand what the fuck you're talking about.
Right.
Because you're only teaching one way. As if there's only one way to absorb information.
I was a math teacher, so teaching one way really wears me out.
Oh my God.
And
Emory loves math. Please come pour all of that in.
Differentiated instruction is like my favorite thing. And teachers are like, a lot of math teachers that I knew, I had to learn, I learned different ways to teach it because I learned it different ways because they were telling me one way. And I was like, there's got to be another way to do this.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, the math the kids are learning now is not the math I got. I cannot. I told Emory, I said, I can help you with your homework now because you're in kindergarten. Once you get into these number grades, my nigga, I can't.
I can't help you. The test I took was not the same. The test I took Praxis in 2007 is not the same test that's happening right now.
The word practice, just give it. I'm in. Oh, that's a trigger. I didn't even take the Praxis. I didn't even do that. David did.
Yeah.
Just seeing him go through it, I was like, no, this is trash. To be like,
they made him write essays as an artist.
Never called anyway. I was like, nigga, you need to come home. This Praxis ain't worth all of this. They ain't even gonna call you regularly. No. Terrible. And then, then he's at Berwick right now, which is a K-8 school. The real focus is the middle school, right? Because they're trying to get these numbers for all these state testing. And then you've got fucking K-5 that are just not paid attention to and feeling neglected every day because nobody's worried about them. Emory's literally had 2 teachers quit in 1 year. 2 teachers, the sub that replaced the
long-term sub
teacher that just came, and like if paddling was still a thing, she would probably do it. She just said, you know what? I'm sick, and never came back. Wow. I was like, so my son's first experience with abandonment was teachers in kindergarten. Oh, man. That's fucking great. So it's just been a lot of things that I didn't expect to have to deal with in kindergarten. Yeah. So then when you think about all the shit that I was talking about me experiencing from myself and my own body, and knowing that my inability to be connected to my body right now is causing my husband to have to wait, my partner to have to wait on me to like get my shit together, to like want to do anything physical. And we all know you got to release or the shit. I'm evil.
Hugs to David.
Oh my God. He's such a great man. Such a great man. He's so patient and he's so great. And I'm definitely with the person that I was meant to be with. If anybody understands me inside and out and has never in a moment of any day judged me for anything, and has been that man. And I am all over the place 24/7. So it is not easy to like process anything with me because I like stop my thoughts in the middle and then go 2 thoughts ahead. Hey, ADD.
Hey, ADD. So, there's so many gifts though. There are gifts. There's so many gifts.
There's so many gifts. Like lately, past me been looking out for future me a lot. Yes. And I told you, I was like, that made me feel like a real adult. Like it's simple shit. Like, girl, you put that extra deodorant in your bag today because you knew by the end before you went from that meeting to that meeting, you might need a refresher. Look at you thinking out of your hygiene. Goddamn. I love that. Only took us 37 years, but we're doing great out here. It's like the simple things. So you doing all of that. And then also your 6-year-old who's feeling a lot of feelings for the first time, doesn't know what to do, also doesn't know why he's feeling them, because it took him a while to realize that the reason he felt unsettled at school was because his teacher left. Oh. And I wasn't going to make that connection for him because that's not letting him do the work. And also I didn't want him to be more sad for longer. Right. He knew why he was sad. We talked about it. We worked through the sadness. He didn't necessarily need to know that it was because his teacher left, because that would have been at that point would have been compounded because we also lost our family dog like a month or so before that. And that really like traumatized him. But the conversation that him and David had, that David just did the book with him about where love lives. He didn't even know the groundwork that was being set for that. That helped Emory tremendously with the loss of Copper. because he was like, well, Daddy, I mean, he's really sad, but he's in pain, and love lives in your heart and your head. That's what you told me. And so he's always going to be with us no matter where he goes. You said he's just sick and he just needs a new body. And wherever he goes, he'll be happy. And that's what we want for him, right? This is what my 6-year-old is saying to me. And I'm like, shit. Thanks, bud. I needed that.
Right.
You know, like Emery gives me moments where like I realize that he's listening, but I realize he's also like me. It takes him time to register everything to where he can like make sense of it. And so, you know, I've learned not to get upset if he doesn't seem to get the concept when I'm talking to him in the moment, because 2 days later, he'll give me a moment where I'll realize it finally connected. Yeah. You know, like in the moment, I may get irritated if it's like the 17th time that I'm talking to you about something that you're just not doing because you're not listening. But I usually end up coming back and apologizing and making him very acutely aware that that's more about me and my expectations than who he is as a human. Right. We always make sure I think these are important principles for relationships in general, but for kids who are developing their coping mechanisms and how they process and do critical thinking skills, they learn that shit in like the first like 6-7 years of their lives. And it's set for when we're adults. Like it doesn't really waver. Right. So I make it a point to tell him it's not you that we're mad at or you that we're upset with. It's the behavior. Those are two different things. This isn't making me love you any less. You can't do anything that's going to make me stop loving you. You're my son. I'm going to love you forever. And then some. Right. But the behavior, that's not who you are. And I'm trying to figure out why it's happening right now, because you're acting something out to the point that you even know it's not who you are. That's why you're being even more dramatic about it, because you're acting instead of actually feeling the emotion. So like, we got to talk about why that's happening versus you thinking that I'm just yelling at you for being extra or being dramatic or all those labels that we give ourselves. That's really just us processing regular basic ass emotions, you know, but the world tells us that we can't do that. We can't be ourselves in the moment because then we're weak and we, you know, all those things. And then don't be a Black woman who, you know, is angry or sad or anything all at once. Yeah. I hear you like creating the world that you want to see through how you're raising your children. Yeah. Yeah. Because I mean, I'll do the work until I have no fucking breath in me. And then I still will probably have a Canva presentation. You hear me? That's for me. Right. But I know that my legacy is these babies. Right. Like, because they're who I have access to all the time. And I'm going to be, if I'm nobody else's, which I know is not gonna be the case, because I'm already the auntie that everybody calls, all the kids. They all know that they can call me, but they also know I'm gonna debrief with your parents. You don't get to tell me shit and then expect me to keep secrets. I'm gonna talk to your mom and dad. Yep. They're gonna know. It's fine if you're not comfortable having the conversation, but I am, and they'll know. You can have it with me so that we can process. That's fine. I'll call them afterwards, you know, but like, right. I got my kids, and I can help them be the best version of themselves in any moment. And I know that because I don't do anything that they don't agree to do. Right. Like, before my kids had words, our thing was like, if my arms are open and your arms are open, then we're agreeing to have a hug. To me, that's consent. Yeah. Everybody involved is agreeing, not one person being the fucking gatekeeper of happiness and giving somebody permission. And so that's why the concept of, like, you know, the unapologetic, enthusiastic consent is in response to men getting in trouble for doing creepy ass shit where they think, oh, I want that person, so I'm just going to do whatever it takes to get it. And then it's like, oh, but we don't want to get in trouble. So then they have to be enthusiastically excited for me to do whatever I'm doing that to them. And then it's like, or they could just have mixed emotions. They could do what you're wanting to do right now, but also still not be sure if it's gonna work all the way, because people can say no after they've said yes. Right. Don't teach that. No. It's like, if they're not like basically doing a backflip with fucking pom-poms, then like, don't touch them. And I was like, so you're just taking pleasure experiences away from people? I'm very confused. There's not enough nuance and complexity held for that. No, not at all. Sex is fucking awkward, man. Whether you've been with somebody forever or one night, 2 hours, it doesn't matter. It's always awkward. They're bodies on bodies, and people are awkward about bodies because we live in America, right? Nobody's like, unequivocally every moment of every day just falling into sexual experiences flawlessly with no anxiety or concern.
No.
Like, anybody at any given moment can be everything but enthusiastically excited to fuck you. It doesn't mean you don't want to do it.
That's true.
You know, it's
That's
a
true.
complex, it's a very complex thing, and we have to give grace for all of it. And I think in a perfect world, when I'm thinking of, you know, adults in a sexual relationship, that conversation just flows, man. Like, you know, I think you know, the concept of like talking about aftercare, like sexual aftercare, is really big, because we never think about what people need after the pleasurable experience. Some people may want more cuddling. Some people may want a snack and some rehydration. Some people may want to fucking go to sleep. Another person may want a shower. Somebody may want a haiku. Nigga, I don't know. The options are endless, but you're also not going to know if you don't ask. And you're not going to know what you need if you don't evaluate it yourself. And honor the fact that in the moment that shit can change, and that's okay. That like your partner being not as engaged in you or what you want afterwards is actually not about you. It's about the hormones that are being released trying to tranquilize their ass to sleep, because sex is 10 times more effective as a tranquilizer than fucking Valium. And our bodies are trying to regulate some shit, but still be here for you. So we're a little loopy. You know what I mean? Like, some shit's awkward. We're trying to work through it. I don't know where my ejaculate went. Do you? We have kids. Are they gonna sit in it in the morning? We got to get these sheets figured out. There's so many things, man. You know, so like shit's gonna be awkward. Just embrace it and know that that's the beauty of it. Laugh when you're having sex. My God, it's okay. Laugh together, be awkward, and then get it in. It's just, you know, like I just want it to be what it is. I don't want people to put pressure on themselves. I don't want people to feel like they have to perform a certain way, or that they have to devalue their desire for pleasure or for their needs in order to make their partner feel validated. All the while they are going an entire relationship without an orgasm or any sense of pleasure, because the end result is not always an orgasm. P.S. in case anyone's wondering, that's not always a goal for people. So, you know, I mean, I think intimacy comes in so many different ways, and I don't think we validate the non-sexual ways that we receive intimacy enough. So like, I'm a big other than sex person right now.
Me too.
Because I'm like real fucked up with all the things that are happening in my body. And sometimes it's just easier to be like, hi, can you like hold me and be under a cover?
First of all,
can I lay just on top of you? I just want one leg over your leg, and then my other legs are going the other direction. And don't
a
ask
back
me.
scratch.
Woo! Karen, I threw my Uncle Remus rug. My Uncle Remus
back scratch.
A back scratch, honey, can change a whole
good night.
night.
That could be orgasmic.
Facts.
Good night.
Facts. Absolutely. Yep. Absolutely. There's no question about it. I actually think that those experiences that are connected to a more somatic instead of sensual or sexual experience, like innately, and kind of knowing erogenous zones, that fills me for much longer. You know what I mean? Like it lasts. It's like my hit. That's my hit, and I'm good for like.
Yes.
I'm gonna come back
endorphins for days.
Yeah, I'm gonna come back again because I'm a skin hunger baby, really, at the end of the day. But that sustains me more. Like just having a moment where we sharing a blanket, leaning up against each other, watching a horrible ass like fucking movie on Prime. I don't know. It doesn't matter what's happening. It's that we're sharing space together. We don't necessarily have to talk. We don't have to like, you know, be a certain version of ourselves for each other. We're sharing space, and that's equally as beautiful as a mutual orgasm or fucking or whatever. It's all valid. And so I just want I want that sort of happiness for everybody, because everything is so connected to shame and guilt, and nobody wants to like touch their own bodies because we were so shamed about it growing up. Because adults look at kids with these adult lenses, but like your kid doesn't fucking know what sex is, bro. They're wrestling like kids. And sometimes somebody accidentally hits another person's penis or a vulva or whatever. You going, oh my God, why are you doing it? It's freaking them out. They was just wrestling.
They don't even know what's going on. They're like, what?
Know what you're talking about. All they know is that you're yelling at them for touching someone else's and maybe their own bodies. And then the association is, oh, I shouldn't be touching my body. And then we've got 30-year-olds who have given birth and don't even know what erogenous zones are, or pleasure, or an orgasm, because they've never thought that it's okay to touch their bodies to find out, So
Is that why you started Happermations?
Absolutely. I want my son and my daughter to have the best orgasms in their fucking life. I want sex to be pleasurable before anything else for them, because I never understood that until I met David. I never knew that sex was for me. My body existed for other people.
Right.
Always. It was never about what I wanted. It was never about what pleased me. It was never about what my needs were. I was there to serve. And I never questioned it. And then I met this person who was like, I feel like you're real quiet. And like, you're not really telling me like what you need. I want this to be like, I want our intimacy to be as good for you as it is for me. And I feel like that's not happening. And I like legit was speechless. I was like, what do you mean it's supposed, like, I don't understand. I was also a sex educator technically at that time.
Wow.
Right? Like I'm teaching, but the way that I was teaching is like from the perspective of being under the influence. And I wasn't drunk all the time. I mean, don't get me wrong, I have a moments, okay? I have a moment, but I wasn't drunk all the time. And so I was like, well, that's not my experience. And it was like disassociation. Like, okay, well, that's great if like that's what people are doing, but that's not what I'm doing. So then I don't need any of this information. Because you're so able to compartmentalize at that point. That's what I have been doing my whole life, trying to keep me from having to feel what I wanted to feel and make sure everybody else was okay. It just became innately a part of who I was and how I moved throughout the world. And it wasn't until I had a partner that questioned like why I never talked about what I wanted to do. Just in general, wasn't not even necessarily sexually.
Like, I don't know. I didn't know that was for me.
He literally bought a book that was 1,001 questions to get to know you. Because he was like, we about to find out. We 16 years in, we still pull that bitch out every now and again.
I love it.
Like, well, I haven't been asked a random ass question in like 2 years. Where are you at? You want to do it? And we find the book, goddamn.
Me and Aaron had these cards, and it'll do something similar with those questions, and we'll pull them out whenever we just are out of ideas for a date night and we want to just dig in.
Yeah, man, because how you answered it 6 months ago could be different. How you answered it a few years ago, we all evolving. At least we should be, hopefully evolving and kind of learning and growing. And the cool thing about sharing those moments with somebody consistently is that they get to see and fall in love with all the versions of you. Hopefully that's what everybody experiences. That's what a very healthy and equitable and loving space for people should be, more so than anything else. But I know that shit's complicated for a lot of people. Vulnerability is fucking scary. It's terrifying for me. Again, 20 years into this work, I've been with the same partner almost that entire time. And it's still fucking terrifying.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to talk about why my body associates orgasms with death. Just when I got to a better part of that, then I got COVID.
Oh my God.
And I was at a point where I tried to have an orgasm and I could not breathe.
Oh my God.
Like I had to grab like David's like frantically finding inhalers. And again, the feeling was like, fuck, I'm about to die.
Oh my gosh.
An orgasm. So it was like a re-traumatization. And when I tell you that I didn't even put that shit together until like 6 months ago, that was fucking I don't know, what year are we in, 23? That was 2021. It was 2 years ago. And I was, David and I were, how David and I be processing just like you and Karen, or like you and Karen, you and Aaron. And we were going through things and I was like, oh my God, David, I think this is the epiphany, right? I think this is it. I feel it in my head. I think what I'm about to say is about to be fucking life-changing. Maybe not for you, but it's going to be for me. So listen. And then I said it just clear as day. And I was like, fuck, that's it. It was like, as soon as I got to a point where my body was like, okay, maybe we can work with this. Maybe it's not as scary. You can work with it. You have a partner that'll stop if you need to get yourself together, acknowledge what you just had, work through it. And then you could keep going. Like, that's fine. You're in a safe space to do that. And then COVID, like literally 2 weeks later, Karen, it's not like months like 2 weeks later after I started having like those, thoughts that were kind of like, silver lining, coming out of postpartum stuff and whatever. And I was like, maybe this is the wave. I was dipping my toe back into being a sex educator again. And I think that space gave me that's my home, right? Like that's how I don't know I don't know how to exist in this world and not do the work that I do. It's literally so connected to who I am as a person that I feel off if I'm not doing it. So that 2.5 years where I wasn't doing work like this, I was the fucking worst version of myself. Because it was like, it's like a artistic depression. And David, like if he doesn't paint, he slowly starts fading.
Yeah.
Well, it's like, babe, it's been 2 weeks. What you doing? Either you on the iPad, you got a paintbrush. Like we got to hold each other accountable to stuff like that, because I know that once he gets to a point where he's recognizing that he's in some sort of funk, it's already too late.
For sure.
Because he's an internal processor and I don't like to force him to talk out loud.
Yeah.
He needs to get through things himself first and then be able to talk to me, because he doesn't feel like he's got his thoughts together enough to be able to speak to anybody else about it. And that's another thing about relationships too, right? Is that you have to honor people where they are.
Yeah.
You can't force people to talk about things that they're not prepared to talk about. And you have to be okay with that and not make it's not about you. It's about what they need to do to be in a space to be able to have the conversation and for it to be worth everybody's time and air and energy. Why would I start a conversation that I know is not going to get anywhere because my thoughts are not connected
together? Yeah.
So I think this is a very long answer to your question. I'm not surprised by this at all. But talking about what an ideal world would be is not a simple answer, because how we got here is not simple. And none of this is really talking about fucking race on top of all of that, because we know what that means. Enough people talk about that shit all the time. I want to talk about the pleasurable part of shit that's also like connected obviously to systemic racism and the fact that, Black people can't have anything, let alone joy or orgasms.
My God.
The people was mad when they found out Harriet was out here throwing them back. Harriet gave everybody what they wanted and she got it in return, baby. Okay. I love Treva about Harriet Tubman. She know everything. Treva was unapologetically dissertation talking about all the ways that Harriet was everything other than the stereotype they projected her to be. Yes. And she made people mad, and she still does it now, and we talk about it often. And I love that as a foundational kind of like, we're not just these asexual fucking beings.
That's Dr. Treva. If anybody doesn't know,
Dr. Treva. Dr. Treva B. Lindsay, y'all, please. She just got her 3rd book signed. That's my baby. She's doing amazing work all the time. And so, it's just kind of like, this goes so far back, like when we talking about trauma and that shit being generational, we are taking on so much. We come out the womb with shit. Man, like when I tell you that I had a fucking hour-old baby looking at me for 45 minutes, it was fucking weird, because I was like, yo, like, what you read me already?
That's not your firstborn.
Old, And David was passed out. It was such, like he just was not awake at all. It was literally me and Emery in this weird recovery room with a half curtain. You know what I mean? They just kept coming and checking on me to make sure that my fucking legs worked. And I'm just like staring into his eyes. He's looking at mine. And it was like, at 47 minutes, we were like, okay, maybe we can close our eyes and try to see where we land.
Take a little nappy nap.
It was such a, I hate the, soul tie, all that type of shit. I hate that kind of language, but it was really like, no, we need to have this moment, just you and me first. This is how we came into this world together. I became a mom in that moment. I mean, I was a mom whenever I just chose to be, but like in that moment when I was meeting my child for the first time and he was meeting me, we read the fuck out of each other, mainly him reading me. And I was like, I can't not be better for you. I'm not going to pass on trauma that I don't even know yet. Right? Because my upbringing was beautiful. My parents are beautiful. They have a great marriage. They love each other. They love me. I'm the only child. They didn't have anybody else to worry about. So innately, it's always about, I'm always the center of everything. What child doesn't love that, right? But somehow I'm still also quite humble, I would like to think. Most people don't even know I'm an only child. That's because I'm also innately an empath and a Pisces and a water sign and all these sorts of things too. But like, I had a space where I could be more open to process those things. It's just none of us had the tools or the language to do it. So the same traumatic experiences of people having to show up and let every relative, come and give them a hug, punch, they, do their little cheeks, play with their hair. I was the light-skinned biracial girl who always had really beautiful hair. Everybody wanted to touch it and play with it. My aunt to this day, She's like, how's that hair? I'm sorry, I have a whole degree, a whole career,
Okay.
2 kids. You can ask me about anything other than my hair.
Anything.
I actually I'm good, but cool. Yeah. Notice the hair on my top of my head. Sure. That's also doing well. You know what I mean? Like, it's still happening now, And so I knew very early on, I was like 7 or 8. And I was like, yo, any kids I have in my life, this shit is not going to happen. I didn't have the words to explain why it made me uncomfortable. And so it just continued to happen. It's not really because somebody wasn't paying attention or nobody was there. It's just, a side effect of not having this as a part of, the norm, which is exactly why I want it to exist for everybody else.
Shared language is everything.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, there's so many layers to all of that, but it all, in my mind, starts with giving kids a voice, because they are fucking humans and they deserve to be treated like they have basic human rights. And it's not always children are seen and not heard. And it's not always, oh my God, why is she so fast? How about they don't fucking make clothes for bodies that developed at 10 when you are like, I had a body of a 16-year-old and I was like fucking 5th grade. Clothes didn't exist for me. That's not a thing. Everything was small because I had all these parts, and clothes were not built for me.
Right.
And people call me fast. Oh, well, look at those hips. Think of that you're definitely having sex because
you're like, with who?
With who? But also, that's not a thing. Your hips widening, the hymen shit. People are like, oh, I can tell you having sex. Look at your hips.
What?
Or my body is puberting. My body is.
That's a shirt. Adolescent. My body is puberting.
Like, there's shit going on. And then we also don't talk to kids about that. That's such a traumatic fucking experience.
Trauma.
And have hair somewhere you didn't have hair before the night before when you went to sleep. Shit is terrifying. And nobody tells you what is happening. You just woke up and all of a sudden have hair. Like, what the fuck happened overnight? What did I eat? There's so many questions. You talk about every other body part for what it is. The nose is a nose, the ear is an ear, your feet are feet, but your vulva is your Kit Kat or whatever the fuck y'all be calling it that's weird and gross. No, and your penis is a wee-wee. I don't know a wee. I've never met a wee-wee. I've met a lot of penises. I've met a lot of testicles. I've met a lot of perineums. I don't know what any of these names are that you have. I've never met any of those. The fuck?
You touching on a nerve, you're gonna get some people right there.
Yeah, because all y'all still do it. I'm saying it loud so y'all can hear it in the back. Stop that shit. What you're
vagina.
Doing, and also the vagina is internal, the vulva is external. P.S. You also have 3 holes.
A word.
Okay, a word. Get a mirror. Spread those bitches. Spread that labia. Figure it out. Get into it. Find out what's down there. When I tell you, I had a whole class of parents trying to argue back at their kids after I taught them they had 3 holes. Their moms was like, no, you don't. So then the kids came back to school the next week like, Miss Erica, I'm confused because my mom said I don't have 3 holes. I said, baby, that's because your mom ain't looked either. And she wasn't taught to. So it's fine. I promise you I'm right. And if you want to just let her have it because you want to let her have it in the moment, let her feel like she got it. But that's fine. You listen to me in this moment. Anatomically, you have 3 holes. It's cool.
You can pee when you're on your period.
And you don't have to, yep. All those things, right? Yeah. It's like basic anatomy. It's like confusing as shit. And we never talk about it, but we'll dissect the fuck out of a frog though. I mean, is anybody else still processing that trauma? What the fuck? I didn't want to cut Kermit up. Nobody asked me, but I knew I had to do it to get a grade, goddamn.
Right.
Man, it would have been much more effective if you actually talked to me about my body and the emotions that were like raging through me that I didn't understand. Or like, I don't know why, like my brain doesn't ever stop running, or teaching me some sort of how to breathe and meditate and like know how to be calm and find rest, or all of these things that are so much more beneficial to my life than dissecting a frog. The fuck did I learn from that? You know what I mean? Like, it's just the math ain't mathing, Karen, in every sense of the word. We focus on the wrong shit.
We really do.
Right? Because then you got 18-year-olds who have never who have never critically thought about anything, because God forbid we give them any sort of ability to question what we're doing by giving them open-ended questions. Oh my God, the horror, like how do you, I only ask my son open-ended questions. It's the only way I'm going to find out what the fuck happens in your life. If I'm feeding you the information, then I don't give you a moment to think about your day.
Why do we want relationships with people that we don't get to hear what they're thinking?
We don't get to hear what they're actually experiencing. Why do I want to tell you what you did today? How does that make sense? I wasn't there. How? I don't understand.
Or even how to process that. Like, I wasn't there.
Yeah. And I told Emery, I was like, if I ask you a question and you don't know the answer, that's just as valid. If you don't remember what you did this morning, welcome to my life every day, son. It's fine. That's extremely okay to not remember things. I'm just asking because I want to know what happened in your day. If you don't remember, that's cool. We could talk about something else. You know what I mean? Like, it's a matter of like having conversations with our kids. Like, you don't know who they are. I think that's why people got so mad about COVID, because their kids was around and they had to ask them questions. And
they had to interact. They had to have relationships.
They had to interact. And like, honestly, our society is not built around having moments like that anymore. Right? Like, it's just not. It's not naturally a part of any relationship development at all, not even just between like parents and kids. I know I'm talking about that now because that's my current lived experience, but that shit doesn't exist. Friends don't even know how to fucking talk. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, we just kind of don't have this, we've lost this ability to just like
connect,
check in on people and see how they doing. We always want to tell people how they should be feeling instead of actually listening to how they fucking feel. And just say, how can I show up for you today? What does that look like for you this afternoon? Because it could be different from this morning. You got to honor that shit too.
Yeah. We don't know as a community how to like hold space.
Yeah.
And then take space in really reciprocal and supportive ways. Yes. We don't know how to do that.
Imagine if the barbershop was that instead of all of the toxic masculinity that comes from barbershops regularly. That then we have to spend generations fucking unlearning.
And they finally started, some people finally started having conversations, and that's beautiful. And I want more of that.
Yeah. But they are met with like vitriol. Like they are met with like, how dare you change the staple of the community? Or we could acknowledge that the staple of the community has been fucking us up for years, generations, centuries. Just because it's something that's been happening doesn't mean it's great. I don't think we can say like the Constitution was great, so let's keep implementing that shit forever. It's things evolve and change. What worked in this time is not the same. At the time that barbershops became what they were to the community, that's what people needed to feel safe. And in that time, it involved talking shit and being toxic and whatever, because we had to get it out how we could. Right. And we surviving. We know better now. We've evolved. We know more information, and we know that those messages hurt people, and it hurts our community in more ways than we understand. That's why people can't communicate, and people out here with trash ass relationships, and people are getting killed walking to their car because they said no, they didn't want your bullshit advancements. We should not be terrified to fucking walk to our car. Anybody, but it's a lot of times Black women. That's at least who we're hearing about. But I know it happens to everybody. I just think that I just want to get to a point where like we can be that safety net for each other without any expectation of it being reciprocated. Like I can just be here for somebody in the moment and know that me being there for you was enough. And I don't need anything in return. It doesn't need to be a transactional experience. It's okay. Like that's actually probably one of the most healthier versions of that, right? For sure. It's because then people don't feel like they owe you, that your buy into them and trying to get to know them and making them feel safe. It's not transactional. You don't want anything in return. You're just doing it because you want them to feel safety and love and security. Yep. I mean, I think, and whatever version that, I don't know that the whole world will ever get to that, but I would love for Black and brown people just to be that for us again, for our community, because I think, in an effort to just survive everyday life, we've been hardened to the benefits of just being kind, because that's what we got to do to make it through the day, man. Like we're also not making it home, from work or the grocery store or whatever on a consistent basis. And there's a level of yourself that you have to give up to be able to exist in that space and still be sane. And so for some people, it's hard to switch on and off. But if more of those sort of spaces where we can show up for each other in the most simplistic and genuine ways start becoming the norm, then we're modeling how to do it for the people that make that really hard. And we can honor that they're not going to make that transition as smoothly as everybody else. And that's also okay.
Yeah.
You know, everybody's got their version of what that would need to look like. It's never going to be overnight. But I hope that my little drop of whatever with Happermations is creating a generation of kids where like they innately want to be these people. And that it, you know, the sooner that you start those conversations and the sooner that becomes their grounding, then these societal messages that tell them they ain't shit, or that their bodies are, you know, whatever, they're only there for other people, or that pleasure isn't a thing, or all the messages that we know have fucked us up for years, they're gonna be like, wait, but that ain't what I've been, that's not what I know to be normal. And then effectively they're already critically thinking, because the dissonance that's happening from these messages being so negative and their home base being so genuinely kind and just understanding of people's right to like want to have their own space, you know, it doesn't match. And so then we can then have the discussion that's more media literacy based when they get to, you know, kindergarten, first grade or whatever. And then that comes into play when they're watching porn, because that finds them at 8. You see what I'm saying? You start talking about you know, I was saying the words to Emery and Dia about their body parts when I was, you know, changing their diapers. I'm like, okay, mommy's wiping your vulva, mommy's wiping your penis. You're gonna hear this word over and over and over again. I know you can't say it, but you'll know it, and you know I'm talking about your body part. So then the next version, the next level up of that is making sure that you understand who is in a position to where that's what needs, like, I need to do this to bathe you because you don't know how to bathe your body yet. The only other time that somebody else is able to touch that part of you is a doctor or your nana and papa. And I should be there when the doctor is there. Nana and papa do sleepovers. So like there's this innate understanding that I won't be there for that, but they should also be asking if they can touch your body before they do. And if they don't, you check their ass. I don't care who they are. You know what I mean? Like, it's just these are just conversations that happen. And I know that you get it. You don't understand the word consent. That's not what matters. You know what consent feels like. You know what your boundaries being violated feel like. You know what somebody forcing you to, you know, play dinosaurs when you want to do, I don't know, gymnastics. It doesn't feel right. And that you're okay to say, I don't want to do that right now. I would actually like to do this. Or say, I want to be by myself. I want to go read a book. Or all of these things are valid, right? It starts with such simple conversations that if that's how we start interacting with each other, when the shit gets more complicated and has layers, we've already been building that skill set up their entire lives. So they're not learning it and experiencing it all at once and being super overwhelmed, all while their body's overproducing all the hormones. And they get boners 11 times a day for no fucking reason. And they don't know why that's happening either. They wake up one day and they have hair that they didn't have, you know what I mean? Like, here comes all the things that, you know, happen. And if they already had half of that shit figured out, imagine how more, like, less all the time a teenager could be.
Yeah, for sure.
You know? Anyway, Karen, you know I can have you here for days, girl.
All right, so that was a worthy rant. So let's do the one thing. Let's finish well, and we'll do a situational hot seat. And this is where you give me a scenario and you ask me what I would do. And then sometimes people will do imagined just to protect, you know, they may like mix some of what really happened with whatever. You could do whatever. I'm sure you have plenty that are real that you could give me, just change the names, right? But we'll talk about what you did too. And
no, don't let me talk no more. I already talked. That's enough. This is
no. Send me the situational hot seat.
Also handling this not going the way you thought it would very well. And
this is going exactly how I thought it would.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I have like 4 questions on here.
Okay, all right. That's because you know me.
So yeah, I know what I'm doing.
I know. No, it ain't about that. It ain't about that. I know you know what you're doing. It's never that. It's that sometimes I can be succinct. There are moments where I'm very succinct.
I was on a panel with you. I actually do know that.
It's not when people ask me what's an ideal world. That I could talk about for hours.
Oh, I love it. And I'm gonna let it, I'm always gonna let it go where it goes. So you're
Yeah.
good.
Okay. All right. I appreciate you. Can you give me an example scenario? Because my brain doesn't come up with shit well on the
So normally this is around culture or showing up in the way that you did. So if you can think of a situation when you maybe didn't show up in the way that you wanted to.
So there was a time when I actually was able to step foot in a church and do some version of sex education because my sorority sister was the pastor in waiting, if you will, and also the youth Bible study person. And she was like, you coming in the evenings when the older people ain't here, and we're gonna talk about all the shits. And then when we got there, I had this version of how the conversation was gonna go. And it was like them telling me all the negative and toxic messages that I was trying to help them unlearn. They were like shaming me in that moment. And I could have used it as, these are all the messages in our culture that we need to work on, because the way I feel right now should never be how you feel. But instead, I got in my feelings. I didn't handle it well.
We'll talk about that in a second. But
so how would you handle it?
So you left. For me, I think it really depends on where I'm at. Like if I had different expectations, and I try to get really clear nowadays on expectations of what the conversation is going to look like or what somebody is wanting me to do. And then when I get curious, if I have space, let's say that if I don't have space and if I am at capacity, then I could be like, how you gonna tell me nothing? You got A, B, C, D, E going on. You know what I'm saying? It's savage. It's savagery. I'm gonna say that real quick.
Savagery, yeah.
It's savagery. But if I have space, then I can be compassionate and get curious and be like, why do you feel like I should live that way?
Right.
Because one time I've had a conversation, and with my mom, there were some things around like, well, I want you to go to heaven. Right. And so like, and then I can see that all she wants for me is to live here fully and then also live an eternal life. Like I can't really get mad at that. Right. So if I get curious, I ask some questions, then people can start to unpack why they're feeling that way. And then I can maybe get underneath what all of these directives and judgment is. We talk about this, and the young people, Gen Z folks, talk about this all the time, and I love it. It's the concept of killing a cop in your head. Yeah. And you know, when we talk about that and like killing the need to police others or the need to if I'm not doing any harm to anyone, why are you so invested in me? Does it mean that you actually care about me and you don't feel like you can do these things? So you're actually saying this because you're scared that something's going to happen to me? Like, great. Like, let's have that conversation. My God, ain't that a word? Damn it. But that's if I have space, that's probably what I would do, is ask some more questions. And then some of those questions would be intentionally strategic, and they'd be like, so what it sounds like is you're scared for my life, or you don't want me to do that because you think that I may go to hell or may get hurt or may, you know, whatever. So like, we'll get underneath it. And then they normally, people, if you keep asking questions, people like in that seat that are just trying to judge you and reprimand you, they don't like that. They might end the conversation for you. So
absolutely, because again, we don't teach anybody how to critically analyze anything. So when those questions are kind of forcing them to do that process. So so then in a time where you're not completely done, and it's like you don't have any capacity, but and you also don't want to do what you just talked about. How would that man, if you were a less evolved person who didn't have more confidence in who you were and more knowledge, and you were, you know, kind of fresh or green in the game, how would you handle that? I think what that has looked like for me over the years, I was raised Pentecostal. My dad was a minister. I was told that if I whistled, like, women don't whistle, you know what I'm saying? So ladies don't whistle. I was told that. So I think for me, what a lot of that did was look like compliance and internalizing and a lot of criticism personally, because I believed those messages for a time, but I always was still on the outside of them. Like, I've always been really, really fluid. And so like, I dated a guy, and he was like, you know, one of the reasons, like, not reasons, but when he broke up with me, he was like, well, you were the only girl on the basketball court out there. But then like 3 years later, he comes to see me play college basketball at Miami. And he's like, you're the best player on the court. And I'm like, yeah, ass. You know what I mean? Like, I've been that. You late.
Well, yeah, like I got a scholarship. Like, what do you mean? So,
Right.
like, you know, it's
It
one of
doesn't
those
just happen
things.
to everybody on a fucking Tuesday.
But I mean, of course, during that time when he's telling me
Yeah.
that and saying that to me, I'm internalizing that
Of
because his
course.
mother told him that. And his mother thought that there was more happening with
Yeah.
us. And the truth was, I never even kissed him. I dated him on and off for like 4 years, and I
Yeah.
never even kissed him. And his mother thought that because I was out here playing with the boys or
Jesus.
playing sports, that we were doing stuff that I was like, I need you to open your eyes,
Yeah.
sister such and such. You know what I'm saying? Because if you would
Yeah.
notice it, you would notice that we were actually really great friends. And
Right.
like, even though I was attracted to him, he was pretty. So like, let's focus up. And I mean, I'm Pam, but like at the
I
end of the
mean, when
day,
you pretty. Cheekbones is cheekbones, baby.
at the end of the day, I'm Pan. Like, so, you know,
Mhm.
that was never, it was never about gender really, or even
Right.
sexuality. It was
Yeah,
really
yeah.
about the notion that like, just because I wanted to do these things and do something that society didn't really understand, it also paid for my college.
Right.
So, I mean, I still got student loans
Yeah.
from grad school, but like it paid
Right.
for my college.
Right.
And like I always had a skirt, but I always had shorts under my skirt. You know what I'm saying?
I
Like
got shorts under
I
my
was
skirt
also, I
right
was
now.
Bible study. I was like, oh, let me
Mhm.
go play football after Bible
Mhm.
study, you know, or in between choir rehearsal and
Yeah.
Bible study. And I think for me, sometimes it doesn't necessarily, like the tomboy thing is not really like, to me, I was an athlete, you know, like it
Yeah,
was deeper than
absolutely.
just being a tomboy. And so I think when I had already had all these messages going on, and a lot of times like I am an internal processor, much
Mhm.
like David. And I think for me, I would internalize a lot, you know, and now I've
Mhm.
gotten to the place where I'm like, well, I don't really feel like that. And my mom will be like, Karen, you always like have a different perspective on everything. You know, at one point she
Yeah.
called me like a closet Republican because I was like challenging her democratic thoughts. And I was like, no, I'm not. But I mean, at the same time, like I'm gonna challenge everything. Like, and
Yeah.
that's, I literally had a job where I came from, and we created a culture of interrogation. It's
Absolutely.
gotten me far as a leader, as strategic
Yeah.
as I am. But I think
Yeah.
I had to get past worrying about what other people thought.
That's
But
it.
it didn't come without, like, I mean, thank goodness for therapy, because I'm still dealing
Right.
with that right now.
Yeah,
But
of course.
undoing the notion that I need approval or external validation, or that I don't need to just sit with myself and understand myself. Like that notion that I don't need to do that, or that that's not just as important, if not more important, than any other relationship I have with anyone else.
Mhm.
That's something that I'm constantly like unlearning to this day.
I think
Yeah.
that's the approval.
Hmm.
My parents didn't lay a hand on me. I also really didn't get time out. It was like, I'm disappointed because I know you can do. They operated in a
Hmm.
world of disappointment.
Hmm.
And to them, that was better than beating me. That was better than chastising me in that way. That was better than putting me in a corner by myself, because I was an only child. I thrived in corners by my fucking self. Are you kidding? I was
Like,
the
I
most
love it
creative.
here.
I was the most creative when somebody put me in a corner, like, bitch, watch me work, right? Like, I can't.
Hmm.
Those were moments where I thrived. And so it seemed counterintuitive, if you will, to them.
Hmm.
And so now I am 37 years old, seeking their approval all the time, just
Hmm.
naturally, because that's the dynamic of the three of us. And I still really haven't talked to them about that, because my mom holds a lot of guilt in how she parented me, and I don't want to
Hmm.
give her more reason to be harder on herself than she needs to be, because I've worked through it into extent where, like, I don't think it's
Is she gonna listen to this?
healthy. No, I probably
Okay.
not. No.
Okay.
And if she does, then that's a moment to grow. That's fine. But it's more so like, this is another version of, me protecting somebody else, because I know that I can do the work to process through
Yeah.
why I'm seeking approval. But I'm so glad that you brought that up, because we do that, and in that moment when I could have used their feelings as let's talk about this moment in our society and in Black churches right now.
Hmm.
So I'm here to talk about why these messages are existing, to the
Yeah.
point where you are 12 years old and you believe them so true to who you are questioning a grown ass person who came in here
Yeah.
to teach you something. And you're like, yeah, but if you feel that way, then clearly you just out here having all the sex, and you're probably, not somebody I would hang out with. Okay. Well, I'm not here to be your friend, first and foremost.
Right.
So like,
What a
but I
strange
didn't have
conversation to have with a
it.
12-year-old.
It was very, I mean, there was one 12-year-old, I just remember her age very, very
I
strongly.
just,
The rest of them
I
were a little
just,
older.
I just think we weren't given permission. And I think a lot of my adult life I've spent reclaiming permission to
Amen.
think a certain way, to
Yes,
talk a
yeah.
certain way, to enjoy pleasure, to celebrate. Like there's a part of me that doesn't even know how to celebrate when good things happen, because I'm waiting for some bad shit to happen. And then it's like,
me and David have felt that way this entire time. We got these jobs. I looked at him and I was like, do you feel like you should be happier?
Yes.
Like I you know,
same.
Like, because life has been fucking lifing for us for so fucking long that like it's almost I don't know how to I just don't. And then the Essence article came out, and then the sex ed presentation was so good. And then the year Happermations happened, and like literally that all happened on a fucking Tuesday. I always randomly say nothing happens on a random Tuesday. What the fuck? That's always like my go-to day. Somebody has a day where they just say it in a sentence.
It was like
that's the day I always land on. I was like, bitch, it's a fucking Tuesday. So now you've taken away my layman, like my just random ass day. Now I can't even say nothing happens on a Tuesday anymore, because that's not
everything happened on a Tuesday.
Everything happened on a Tuesday. And I was not very receptive to it. And I still have problems with that.
But yeah, like I'm gonna enjoy like it. I'm off for 2 weeks in between my new job now, my junior, and I'm finally settling in. I do have a commencement. I'm doing a graduation speaking on Sunday. But like, and I did a workshop today that was really fun with like team building. But like I'm gonna Monday through Wednesday, I don't have much on my calendar, and I'm gonna like clean and get some stuff together for my work room. But like that is gonna be like me sitting with the celebration and the magnitude of this in real time, because it took me a week to get off of my work calendar. You know? It's a lot. Like there's just time and space. Like you need spaciousness. You gotta have spaciousness.
I think, you know, we talked about this yesterday. Like my calendar's saying there's always something. And then yesterday I canceled one meeting, and I got 3 people in that time frame. 2 clients and another like colleague that needed to, you know, tap in about something. And I was like, I canceled the meeting because I needed this. I needed this space. And then somehow I still ended up talking to everyone that I wasn't even supposed to be talking to.
But you needed space for something else.
Yeah, I mean, that ended up being what it was. But you know, it's just funny. Like I'm trying to be receptive to, like today I was telling you, I just got so mad because I went down this rabbit hole in social media world trying to figure out how to optimize a page. Like nobody fucking cares. Who's on Facebook? Who cares? Why are you even looking
at They're not reading it if they are.
Nobody is doing anything with anything.
I'm just putting these podcasts into the ethers anyway.
And seriously, that's really it, right? I mean, no, that's not true. People are listening.
No, it's having cool conversations.
It's having cool conversations. And it's fine, because when they hear it in 5 years, it'll be just as powerful.
It will.
But
society's not going to change that much.
Hell no. But I'm just trying to allow myself to be open for shit to not go the way that I want it to, but it's still to be beautiful at the same time. That's right. So wonderful. Like when your response to my long emotional text message was like, I may come in hot, but I'll be fine by the time you put recording. You were like, yeah, I mean, obviously you just needed to be distracted in another way today. You're fine. I'll see you a little bit
soon.
God damn it.
You were still an hour early too, like with the text. I was like,
I know. No, I know.
I will rabbit hole till 5 minutes before.
I mean, that's what I ended up doing. I clearly was like, can we go at 1:35? Because I got to talk to my son about the zoo trip.
Sure, I'm here.
Right.
Dissociating myself.
So,
but all right, my love.
Yeah, I just, you know, trying to be open to those things is really is a great process and an interesting and opportunity for growth, but that shit don't feel great all the time. So I appreciate you for being a constant staple of a breathe. It's okay.
Yeah. Look at us all surviving all the hard things.
I mean, you know, just out here living it, trying to figure it out.
I tell myself that all the time. You've survived every hard thing you've ever been through. And I just do it again.
One of the most loved Happermations with these kids is I can do hard things. And people have mixed emotions about it, because some people think that it's like building this, you know, environment where they're just going to grind and work, and because I can do hard things. And I was like, definitely not the intent behind that at all. It's that the emotional shit is really fucking hard, but getting through it is so worth it.
That might be the parents' things.
Exactly. That's what usually ends up happening, is like, I feel like that's a conversation you and I should be having about your own trauma with that. But for your child, when you're having this conversation, these are supposed to be the moments that they can hold on to when hearing no from their friend about playing Legos is really hurting their feelings. And they feel like they can't get out of that moment.
Yeah.
Reminding themselves that they can do hard things is how they move forward. Emery literally pulled that Happermation out in the doctor's office when he found out he was going to get 3 vaccinations when he was fucking 4. He was like, Mommy, do you have your Happermations on you? He knew exactly what color, because you know they are they're so here at our house. He's like, I know what color I want too. He knew exactly what he was looking for. And he read it, he opened it, he read it to himself over and over again because he was really scared. And in that moment, that statement grounded him and made him feel safe. And he still checked that nurse before she came over and did her little swab. You gotta have to ask first, you know?
Wait till I am ready. I love that so much.
If he wouldn't have been able to get himself there, he wouldn't have remembered to check her for not asking before touching his body. And so that moment was beautiful for me to witness, because that's what the statement is supposed to do, not make you feel like you have to grind until you pass out. I feel like it's something else we have to talk about.
That might have been something that millennials and
of course
Gen X have learned.
I mean, I don't know how you feel about this, but my message was, you're a Black woman, you got to work twice as hard to get half as far.
That's the message.
That was my entire, it's still kind of the message, they just don't use that language anymore. But my dad was the torch for that. Like, for that, he was like, yeah, no, you can't be out here in Pataskala and not
John Henry.
Absolutely. Anyway, well, I love this podcast. I love this space. I love you. Thank you for bringing me here and for always being a constant reminder that good people exist in the world, and that, you know, we're out here trying to make shit happen. And you know, you're doing great work always. So I appreciate you letting me be a part of it.
My pleasure. Thank you for being and bringing the culture of you.